Well, hey guys, welcome to the first video. I will be producing a video almost every week that you need to watch between our class sessions. It's possible that some weeks I may not create one, and I'll let you know ahead of time that that's the case. So in class on Thursday, we did not have enough time to spend much of our time in the notebooks, but you all got your composition notebook. And so what I would like to do now is to walk you through the process of getting it set up. So if you need to pause the recording and go get your notebook and a pencil or a pen, go ahead and do that. Now that you have your notebook, you'll be able to go to the website and see that I have uploaded the Learner Goals page. I may have given you a copy of this, or maybe I'll just have you make a copy of it at home, but it needs to be taped into a page of your notebook. So you could either put it right on the inside of the cover of your notebook, or it could go on this first page. It's important that you have that Learner Goals page handy because anything that I test you on in the course has to come from this page. So on it you can see that there's a list of things that I want you to be able to define. So in other words, you have to be able to define the word ecology, ecosystem, pollution, germination. And as we're going through the course, I'm going to perhaps give you time or tell you in your homework sessions that you need to begin to define these words. You can define them as you go along and you discover them in your reading. You can write down definitions as we're talking about them in class, but by the end, as we near the end of the class sessions, you should have this page completely filled out. If I put the word ecology in there, you also need to know all of the word forms that go with ecology. So don't just define ecology. That could include ecological, it could include other forms of the word. Another example of that might be the word pollution. There's also the word pollutant and pollutants and pollutes. There's verb forms, there's adverb forms, there's adjective forms, and there's noun forms of many of the words that we're talking about in science. So you have to know all the word forms. In the middle part of the Learner Goals page, we have a section that's called I can provide examples of the following. So you may be asked on an assessment or on a test to give examples of an ecological system or an example of limiting factors. So that's what that part's about. And then finally at the bottom is what you should be able to do as a result of being in this class. So you can complete your lab experiences. You can do the homework that's assigned on the videos between each time that we're together. You can construct a biome jar. You can make observations of that biome jar. So make sure that in that case you kind of just check them off. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. It's important to keep in mind too that you are keeping a record of your work in your notebook. So let's go back to the notebooks for a second. So again, you've got this taped in your science notebook. Somewhere in the early pages of your science notebook, I would like you to create this list and write it down, right in your notebook somewhere. If you need to pause the recording and do that, go ahead and do it now. Each notebook entry needs to include these items. It needs to have a title, and you make up the title on your own. It doesn't have to be anything that I tell you. Be as creative as you want with your titles. Be sure you put the date in the notebook on that same page. Draw diagrams about what you're learning, what you did, and all those diagrams need to have labels or captions with them. If we're doing something in class, you might be collecting data. So you might have a data table, you might have just some observations written down. All of that qualifies as data. I want you to begin to ask your own questions, so have a place where you're asking questions, and soon after that have a place where you're answering your own questions. And then, especially as you're looking at videos from week to week, be sure you have a place for notes. So even if it's a video notebook entry, make sure you have a title, a date, perhaps there's some diagrams from the video that you can sketch, and certainly notes and questions and answers as you are doing the videos from week to week. Then every week, be sure that you bring your notebook to class with you. That means you need to have writing supplies and maybe some tape or some glue. If I give you a handout, you can tape that material back into your science notebook. So everything goes in your science notebook, and it's really important you have it with you in class every week because I do take grades on that. Sometimes you get a notebook grade, sometimes I'll just take a grade only on one part of the notebook, but it's important that you have that in class every week. So your assignment now is to go back to your biome jar and do a complete science notebook entry for your biome jar. So that means a title, a date, the diagram, any questions that you have, observations that you made while you were putting it together, observations that you're making now this week as you're watching the growth and changes in your jar at home. All of that goes into an entry in your science notebook, and I will check that in class next week. If you have any questions, please let me know. My email is on the website, and you can drop me a message if you have questions. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Thanks.